That was Narendra Modi's victory speech. His second innings as Prime Minister begins. We do not know when he is going to hold the oath-taking ceremony, what shape and where the ceremony will be held. But very charged up atmosphere there at the BJP headquarters. After Amit Shah spoke, it was the turn of the Prime Minister, who made some very, very strong points. He energized his cadre. He thanked them. He also made some statements for his opponents. Kartikeya, if we could look at the key points, according to you, that stood out from Narendra Modi's speech.
I think for me the most important point was, or the takeaway was, the constitutional values. You see, the charge against Bharatiya Janata Party has been that if BJP comes to power, they will change the constitution. Now, people, it's just one needs to remind people the only time Indian constitution was changed when we had an emergency. And when democratic rights were suspended by Indira Gandhi. For good or bad, the word secular and socialist were introduced by her during emergency. It did not happen in a functioning democratic India when Parliament was on. So, that the charge that the Prime Minister would remove the words like secular or socialist, or fundamentally alter the nature of constitution, which might affect the civil society. I think for him to publicly stress that is very, very important. I think he's giving out a message that he will not do anything which violates the constitutional morality. I think for me it is a very important thing, because generally opposition parties, from the perspective of minorities, attacked Narendra Modi on this, that it would change the constitution. For me, Palki, that's the biggest takeaway.
Was that a reference to Kashmir? What stood out for you from this statement?
What a powerful piece of oratory. He's had 2 grueling months on the campaign trail. He's addressed more than 150 rallies. You could hear that a little bit in his voice, but he gave a really powerful performance, and what a way to cap off his time on the road. This must be the speech that he enjoyed giving more than any other, and in a sense, he now has a bigger personal mandate than any other leader in the world. But it was also a very political speech. It was a combative speech. He said at one point, no one can dare cheat the country anymore by wearing the mask of secularism. And he held out his palmed hand in case anybody didn't get the message. So there was a real punch there. But I mean, he really, as you say...
And he called it fake.
Sorry?
He called it fake.
Well, you probably caught that. I didn't quite. But it was a really impressive speech which did the trick. And wow, he's also had, 40 minutes of prime TV time.
That's what sets him apart, Arun, that the fact that this comes naturally to him, and he seemed to be enjoying it. As Andrew said, that it's been more than 2 months of campaigning, and a very grueling campaign in the heat that he also referred to, and yet he comes here and he's taking his sweet time and he's pausing for the cheers to go on, and he's a natural. He is in his element.
Earlier, when Narendra Modi started his political career, especially as the organizing secretary of BJP, he was not a very good orator. He actually worked on his oratory skills. He was actually not at all, he was a below average orator, but he worked on that skill. But the key takeaway from his speech for me is he only gave one example, and that too he took from Mahabharata, where he said that the people of this country have acted as Lord Krishna. And then he attacked pseudo-secularism. So the point which I want to make is that his whole communication strategy is very effective because he remains connected to what you call the cultural ethos of India.
Right.
He has again reiterated that. While talking about his commitment to the constitution, or the party's commitment to the constitution, he has attacked the pseudo-secularism also. So he is addressing the middle class, upper middle class, while keeping his core base intact. And one more thing, he has more than once, in fact I think thrice, he cautioned the workers that there should not be any arrogance, because he realizes that arrogance, because that is one kind of apprehension which most of the people have. Even BJP supporters have, that this government might become too arrogant.
Right.
So he has cautioned the workers, and he realizes that that has been the undoing of most of the governments, especially after they have been swept to power the second time.
Right. And this is a balance that Modi tried to strike, not so much Amit Shah, who spoke about the Tukre gang, and Modi also started with those, as he said, pseudo-secularism, and then, but he did end by saying that I will not do anything with an ill intention. So he's sending out a message to his core voter and to others as well.
He is now the national leader, and this time he's addressing everybody, not just the BJP workers. And he's saying, don't worry, I have come back, but as you said, you have again invited me back and put bigger responsibilities on me. I will meet them, and I will meet them with good intentions. I will not act with badaniyat. And so he knows what people are worried about. People who don't agree with him. He's telling them, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to upset you. I will be well behaved, constitutionally, reliant. So he's trying to become the broad national leader.
Which he said the first time as well, that I'll be everybody's prime minister, whether or not you voted me to power. And this time again, I believe he's trying to send a similar message, but at the same time also trying to energize his people there. So saying all the things, ticking all the boxes, would you say?
Yes, I think that this was not a triumphalist speech, but a very restrained and a moderate speech, and also one that emphasized Balidan, Tyag. He invoked the memories of those who died, party workers and others, during this long election. He also praised the Indian electorate and the entire electoral system, including the Electoral Commission, as well as all the security forces, for seeing this election through. He signaled the fact that this is an unprecedented election in the history of humankind, as it were, and on this scale and
Which it probably is.
It is.
He may not be off the mark.
And in his own ways, therefore, was saying that, India has accomplished something which is an example to the rest of the world. And then, it seems to me, he also signaled the fact that this is not a time for arrogance, but for taking everybody along. He brought out Gandhi 150 and the 75th anniversary of India's freedom. And he said that this was the time to rededicate ourselves to India and to make a new India, which would be inclusive and not one where people are left behind. He talked about very common people and how it was a victory, not of Modi, Modi, Modi. He said this was a victory of the Atma Samman, the self-respect of the very common Indians, as well as their, he used the word imandari, you see. So these are very powerful signals, it seems to me. And they indicate not playing to the gallery or a kind of childish triumphalism, but a mature leader who feels that the moment has arrived to make India anew.
Walter.
There's an international audience here. You can be sure, and my former colleagues in the State Department are analyzing every word he said to pass on to their boss, and he was addressing that issue. I'm going to be a moderate. I'm going to abide by the Constitution. Those are all sweet words in the international community. And as we speak now, I'm sure the U.S. Embassy here is cabling back home a translation and an analysis. And it's probably a positive analysis of what he said for reasons that you gave.
Right. I have two guests waiting on Skype, but I'll quickly take your reaction.
I think what comes out is the maturity with which he spoke. As Professor Paranjapa said, there was no triumphalism. Maturity that showed in his speech. And one more, takeaway, as far as I could make out, is that who said what during the elections is not important. We should forget and move forward. This is something that magnanimity, it shows magnanimity to the opposition. Whatever they've said about me, we'll forget, we'll move forward. That shows his maturity.
That just 30 seconds. This reminds me of the speech which Balasaheb Devras, the third RSS chief, had given after the emergency was lifted. So he came to the Constitution Club, there was a felicitation function for him, and then people there said that Indira Gandhi should be put in jail. And he was the one who said, forget it and move forward. Forgive it and forget it. That is what exactly he had told to Chaudhry, the Morarji Desais and rest of the people also. So exactly, and Narendra Modi was a pracharak at that time and was directly in touch with Balasaheb Devras.